Hello everyone, I'm Đức Trung with VTV International. This is the English Bulletin, VTV News, coming to you live from Hanoi. First, let's get you up to date with the headlines. National Assembly deputies discuss revisions to the law on housing and the law on real estate. China moves its drilling rig to a new position 25 nautical miles southwest from Chiton Island. And later, Vietnam officially joins the UN peacekeeping force this morning. On to the first update of the hour. National Assembly deputies on Tuesday discussed the draft revisions to the law on housing and the draft revisions to the law on real estate. According to deputies, the current law on housing has yet to include a mechanism or policies to encourage investment in social or rental housing projects. Participants also suggested that housing development should target different groups of customers across a diverse range of housing types, including apartment buildings, houses for sale and for rent. Furthermore, low-income people need to be provided with easy access to housing loans in order to improve housing conditions for all segments of the population. The draft revisions to the law on real estate was also discussed, with many deputies saying more adjustments are needed to ensure consistency between the real estate law with other related laws such as the land law, housing law, and investment law. Vietnamese people with low income will get a new opportunity to afford housing thanks to a new model that offers affordable housing for lease. The topic was discussed prior to the National Assembly's discussion regarding the amended law on housing, which took place this morning.
According to National Assembly Deputy Lim Minh Thong, people with low income can afford housing if houses and apartments were available for rent for a lower price. The amended law on housing will discuss policies regarding housing for the poor in rural areas.
We will discuss social housing in rural areas where the poor faces difficulties in building houses due to a large area used for agriculture. The amended law will specify assistance policies for low-income residents, such as affordable housing loans.
New mortgages will be extended to 10 to 15 years in order to attract home buyers with lower income. In addition, other assistance policy offered by credit institutions will have to be more transparent and specific.
We need a broad spectrum social housing policy that covers topics such as building new apartments, providing special assistance for those in need, as well as increasing monetary assistance. The profit from building social houses for the poor is not attractive to investors, which is why the government has to establish new policies to create favorable conditions for the investors.
The amended law on housing is considered a step forward for social housing in Vietnam. However, with large demand in housing for the poor, more social housing funds and loans are going to be needed to implement this model.
In other news, foreign direct investment, or FDI, into Ho Chi Minh City during the first 5 months of this year increased fourfold compared to the same period last year, reaching $724 million in value. With high-tech projects worth billions of dollars waiting to be licensed, the city is once again proven to be a stable business environment for investors.
According to Ho Chi Minh City's leaders, the main driving force behind the increase in FDI projects is the stability of the macroeconomy. In addition, shorter licensing procedures, improved infrastructure, and efficient business-government agency dialogues also contributed to a better and more open business environment of Ho Chi Minh City.
Recent instabilities of several incidents had negative impacts on both foreign and domestic investors. So in the coming time, we are discussing measures like improving administrative procedures to attract more investments in industrial zones, export processing zones, high-tech zones. We propose that there should be more preferences for those manufacturing complexes.
Along with the growth of FDI projects and capital, the city growth rate in the first 5 months has also been maintained, with estimated revenues from retail and services reaching over $121.5 billion, up by 12% compared to the same period last year. The city export turnover during this period was nearly $11.7 billion, accounting for 20% of the country's total export turnover. This made a great contribution to the city's revenues. The reason for the increase in the city's budget is because the production was maintained and has continued growing. Newly licensed businesses rose by 1% in quantity and 50% in terms of capital. Also, business closures declined by 3% and the macroeconomy has been stabilized. Investments into Ho Chi Minh City are forecasted to keep rising in the near future, especially from South Korea and Japan. The city will give priority to high-tech, eco-friendly, and high-added value businesses, which match Vietnam's goal of restructuring the economy and making the best of global trade agreements to be signed, including the much-delayed TPP.
Bình Dương Department of Customs recently announced that local offices would be open 7 days a week from now until June the 30th. This is a move by provincial authorities to assist businesses in meeting their orders following the recent rioting in the province.
At the Mỹ Phước Industrial Park in Bình Dương Province, the entire import-export procedure team is hard at work even during the weekend. They are ready to assist local businesses in fulfilling their orders after the recent unrest.
The team is working as hard as we can, 7 days a week, to help local businesses meet their deadlines in terms of their export-import orders.
Although many businesses have resumed operations at the park, many of their orders are already late. At the customs office, Sharp Creation Limited Company had to process their customs applications on a Sunday to export their $150,000 steel order to Taiwan in time. The office is also assisting Diamond Vietnam Limited Company with 2 late orders, which were due on May 14th.
The recent unrest caused a lot of damage to our company, but thanks to the customs, we have resumed operations, restored our data, and are meeting our orders.
The Song Than Industrial Park Customs Office received 670 applications last weekend. Customs officers are working around the clock to meet demand.
We're helping businesses restore their lost paperwork, receipts, and data. Department managers have visited many businesses to assess damages, the current state of their operations, and their need for assistance.
According to the Department of Customs, many legal offices, ports, and banks are also working at maximum capacity to assist businesses. Businesses in Bình Dương are expected to return to normal business by June 30th.
A workshop on application of modern biotechnology in dealing with issues related to food security and climate changes was organized in Hanoi on Monday. Participants, including agricultural research institutes from Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar, affirmed that the application of genetically modified or GM plants in agricultural production is a breakthrough in ensuring food security and establishing sustainable agricultural development.
Until 2012, 17.3 million farmers of 27 countries in the world have applied GM plants in an area of 160 million hectares. GM plants has been increasingly used in the US, China, India, Brazil, and the average productivity has been continuously increased.
In the countries that have used this technology, farmers have seen an average yield improvement of about 10%. But the yield improvement has tended to be largest in developing countries, such as the Philippines, where farmers have got an average yield improvement of nearly 20%.
Vietnam's Agriculture Genetics Institute claimed that after many experiments, biotechnological plans have brought greater profits and helped farmers to achieve higher productivity and raise their incomes.
Genetically modified organisms has been closely controlled. If there was anything unusual, international organizations would discover and stop it. Developed countries have applied GMO, and I think there is no risk at all.
Vietnam's agricultural sector has considered GM plants as a solution to reduce the pressure on cattle-fed material import, increase agricultural productivity, and supposedly protect the environment in the context of global climate change. Currently, Vietnam has a fully worked-out system of regulations to evaluate the safety of application of GM plants in human food as well as the environmental safety.
In the latter half of our bulletin, China moves its drilling rig to a new position 25 nautical miles southwest from Chiton Island. And later, a peacekeeping training center was established in Hanoi to mark Vietnam's joining the UN peacekeeping force. That's coming up next on VTV News after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to VTV News live from Hanoi. Now, according to the latest update, China's drilling rig Haiyang Shiyou 981 was moved at around 5:30 a.m. this morning local time. The oil rig was moved by 2 Chinese vessels at the speed of 4 nautical miles per hour. At 10:30 a.m., the oil rig was left in its new position, which is 25 nautical miles southwest from Chiton Island, as part of the Paracel archipelago. However, the oil rig is still located within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. Now, Vietnamese students in New South Wales, Australia, organized a demonstration on Sunday against China's illegal deployment of an oil rig in the East Sea. The following report will take a close look.
The Sydney Town Hall is a busy, popular meeting place in downtown Sydney. It is colored in red today by hundreds of Vietnamese students in New South Wales. They come here with strong love and support for their homeland, and they want their voice heard by international friends.
An estimated 300 students studying in New South Wales gathered at the demonstration against China. Some students from the Central Queensland University travelled nearly 1,000 kilometres to be present at the event.
I think our energy and enthusiasm was met by the pride of being a Vietnamese person.
We love peace and the Chinese people, but we are determined to oppose China's violations of our sovereignty and territory. We call on international friends to understand our parade, which is for peace and justice. Standing side by side, the demonstrators made a red wall along George Street. Waving the Vietnamese flag, they chanted against the Chinese actions. They shouted for justice and they shouted for international support and unity. Their voice was heard by their families and international friends. German student Alex Stark decided to join the parade because he was completely against China's illegal action after reading the news.
I think what they're doing is just like they think they're so strong and they can come just in like smaller countries and do what they want, and that's not okay.
Like Alex, Colin Johnson came here to show his support for Vietnamese friends.
You know, full of energy and support each other for what they think is right, then absolutely they can win.
The red flags, shirts, slogans, and chants of the parade captured the attention of passers-by. Raymond Horsey, an Australian photographer, stayed for a while to take many photos.
I was not totally aware of what was going on in Vietnam now, and I would be happy to support any action to bring it to the attention of the United Nations.
After the event, the Vietnamese students in New South Wales sent a joint statement to the Chinese Consulate General in Sydney to demand China's immediate and unconditional withdrawal of Haiyang Shuyou 981 and its vessels out of Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf.
These days, songs and artworks on the theme of Vietnam's seas and islands have been embraced by Vietnamese people in and outside the country. But there is one song that is more appealing and more convincing to any Vietnamese person. It is the national anthem. Under this theme, a special music video featuring 1,000 people was officially launched in Hanoi on Monday.
So after about 2 weeks from idea to final products, the music video of the national anthem is published in Hanoi today. And the number of participants have expanded from the initial 200 to 1,000. And one special thing is that everyone in this music video wearing the same t-shirt in red and yellow, the Vietnamese flag.
The music video of matching song, the national anthem of Vietnam, was made public at a ceremony in Hanoi. At the event, singer Minh Quân, Ngọc Anh and journalist Ngô Bá Lục, who started the idea for this musical project, shared all the advantages and hardships in making this MV, as it features more than 1,000 people from all walks of life.
Myself and everyone on my team feel so proud and happy to receive all the support and care from our family, friends and colleagues. I feel that I'm doing the right thing, and it's a great driving force for all of my team.
The music video was recorded at both ends of the country, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. Minh Quân studio in Hanoi had opened for a week to welcome artists from the north. Meanwhile, singer Ngọc Anh traveled to Ho Chi Minh City to gather artists in the south. Together with the participation of a number of public figures, this MV also features wide shots of hundreds of people wearing the same t-shirts of Vietnamese flag, as well as rare footage in beautiful landscapes across Vietnam.
While I'm in Ho Chi Minh City, the biggest difficulty is the short amount of time. We started the filming and recording works right after my arrival. There were 30 artists who show up and all of them are very devoted.
This is the first time a music video on Vietnamese national anthem featuring 1,000 people was made. With the new arrangement of the song, local people have showed the love for their country and the determination to protect it. Hoài Lương, Vietnam Television.
Moving on now to other news, a peacekeeping training center was established in Hanoi this morning to underline Vietnam's commitment to the UN peacekeeping force. Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam, Minister of Defense Phùng Quang Thanh, and UN Under-Secretary General Amira Haq attended the opening ceremony. The Peacekeeping Center in Hanoi, C22, is under the leadership of the Ministry of Defense. The first 2 Vietnamese officers will begin their operations as part of the UN peacekeeping mission in South Sudan in June this year. Vietnam will contribute valuable knowledge and experience to the UN peacekeeping force. An action month for children focused on stamping out violence and abuse was launched in the central province of Thừa Thiên Huế this morning. The event drew the participation of more than 800 children and many locals from all walks of life. The action month aims to promote education, protection, and care of children. This year's month will cover entertainment activities such as a summer camp and a football tournament for thousands of children. Local authorities of the central province of Quảng Nam continued its restoration plans of the historic Kỳ Anh Tunnel site in order to preserve this valuable historic site from serious damage. Accordingly, with total investment of over $184 million, the restoration plans will cover a 430-hectare area and a system of 32-kilometer-long underground passageways. Kỳ Anh Tunnel previously went through some small-scale restoration projects, but it failed to stop the site's decline. This time, the restoration is expected to thoroughly upgrade important historical items and improve local facilities to turn the whole area into a major tourist attraction of Quảng Nam province. Up next, let's take a look at a few online articles about Vietnam. Danish processing group Aspersion will close a deal for the plant in Vietnam it currently leases in the summer, as it plans to ramp up production in the country, according to an article on undercurrentnews.com. Aspersion will increase production from 40% of its 10,000 metric ton capacity to fully utilize the plant as part of a 24-month business plan, said the CEO Claus Nielsen. As a result, the company will go from employing 300 to about 700 workers. Foodbusinessnews.net reports Cargill has opened its first cocoa technology transfer center in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu. The center, which was built at a cost of $60,000, will be the first center to serve as a cocoa training campus for about 2,000 farmers in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, Đồng Nai, and Bình Thuận provinces. Together with other technical training programs, it will help farmers improve yields by 30% to 50% in 3 years. The company said it hopes the new center will equip farmers to thrive by providing the right skills and expertise. The next story comes from TTRweekly.com. The Vietnam National Administration of Tourism estimates the country welcomed over 745,000 international travelers in April, representing an increase of 21.51% over the same month last year. China was again the top producer with over 216,000 visits, growing 41.56%, followed by South Korea, Japan, the United States, and Malaysia. All of the country's top markets are in the Asia-Pacific region, with the exception of the US and Russia. The bulk of arrivals in April passed through the two main aviation gateways, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City.
Today's figures begin with a story from Tuổi Trẻ News. The People's Committee of Central Thanh Hóa Province and a Vietnamese group broke ground on a $57 million golf course and international standard resort project on Sunday. The FLC Samson Golf Links, to be built on an area of 92.4 hectares, will consist of an 18-hole golf course, high-standard villas and hotels, and an eco-friendly system including trees, lakes and greenswards. The project is slated to be completed within 10 months from now. According to worldcoffeepress.com, plans are afoot in Vietnam to uproot nearly 100 million coffee trees as part of a replanting initiative. It is a process that will not only limit the amount of coffee that the country can grow, but it will also impact export incomes over the course of the next few years. The average age of the coffee trees are getting too high. Trees that have been exposed to over 2 decades worth of harvest are likely to average around 1 ton of beans per hectare. That number is remarkably low when compared to much younger trees that can yield 150% more crop. Vietnam is forecast to earn some $12.12 billion from exporting agroforestry fishery products in the first 5 months of 2014, up 10.4% year-on-year, said Vietnam Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development on Monday. GlobalPost.com reports that in January to May period, Vietnam plans to earn $5.94 billion from overseas sales of agricultural products, up 5.1%, while its export revenue from forestry products is likely to stand at $2.46 billion, up 13.8% year-on-year.
And that's also the last piece of news we have for you in this hour. Before saying goodbye, let's take a quick look at today's weather forecast. The weather forecast has also closed out VTV News for this hour. Simply visit our website at vtv4.vn to rewatch any of our programs online or catch us again at 6 p.m. local time. For now, goodbye from Hanoi, from me, Đức Trung, and the rest of the team here in Hanoi.